Welcome to Awakened Titans podcast with Lily Patrascu, mind-blowing conversations with influential business titans sharing how you can manifest abundance, love, joy, success through quantum awakening, quantum manifestation, quantum healing, quantum miracles, exponential business growth, and innovative products and services. Discover how to grow a multi-million-dollar business with telemarketing. In today's session, we have Richard Blank, and he has trained over 10,000 telemarketers over 2 decades. Now, the first question is, what's the secret to your success?
Hi, Lily. The secret to my success, besides being on your podcast, is getting past your parents' guilt. Because if you can remove that sort of weight, then you can rise.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
Well, when you're growing up, sometimes you might be under pressure to follow in certain footsteps scholastically. You might need to marry somebody that your parents want you to, or just follow in certain traditions. And for me, I was under an enormous amount of pressure to go to Ivy League and study law and go into real estate. Well, my favorite class back in the day was Spanish. And I also doubled down on it and majored in it in college. And then when I was in my late 20s, I had a 1 in a million opportunity to move to Costa Rica, and I took it. And so sometimes you need to be selfish. And if you have a certain drive in your life and it will make you happy, you follow through with it. And little did I know I was using that sort of foundation, Lily, and that sort of momentum to then fall into this opportunity to be able to start a call center. I just came down here for a couple months to work at my friend's center, to take a breather for a bit. Little did I know I stayed, learned the business from the inside out. And then in my mid-30s, I threw my hat in the ring and started my company. And here we are 16 years later at 150 strong, own my own building, and the stars were aligned.
Wow, sounds impressive. So how can entrepreneurs leverage telemarketing to grow their business?
That's an excellent question. I always believe that interpersonal communication over the phone is a means to an end. Today, more people are thinking of omni-channel, non-voice communication, such as chats and emails and texting, and that is fine. But there's also miscommunication, misinterpretation, and latency. When we speak with people, it's almost like a concierge service now. You can really retain a client, get an upsell, maybe get a referral. And if you do get, and you look at this in a mature way, an exit interview, so you can hear what you did wrong and what your client did correctly in order to earn that business so you can make proper adjustments. And it's the greatest way to get the most intel, to have that sort of intimate relationship with your client and really get to know them. And also, I believe resolving issues much faster and giving them a much better experience. Now, think about it this way. 10 years ago, people were sick of telemarketers. Now, think about how many texts you receive a day, and then think of how many voicemails you receive a day. And then finally, how many calls you get a day. And so it's really kind of the reverse of what it used to be. And if you properly represent your company in the best light, if you're prepared with due diligence with whom you're calling, having your script and your rebuttals and being well-versed, then you play your percentages. And if you build a proper pipeline, and you marinate it and you work it, don't be surprised if you make $1 million. I mean, it's the old school hustle, but it works.
Okay. Now, my question is, to get leads for your business, you need first perhaps some people that are targeted and interested in what you have to offer. And
Correct.
Then you also need perhaps some high-ticket closers who can help you to close the business. Now, these telemarketers that you have, are they doing both, or are they doing cold calling only to source relevant, targeted, interested buyers with money?
That's a very intelligent question, Lily. I'm a 50-50. Half is inbound support, and then the other half is appointment setting, lead generation. And you are correct. There are closers out there. It's a very small percentage, and they're incredible in regards to their art of speech and their skills. And so for us, I think the easiest thing for us to do is to tee it up for the client in the United States, where we can do the cleaning, the filtering, the qualifying. I suggest hot lead transfers. If not, you set it on a shared online calendar for them to call back. Naturally sending them the recording for their review and for quality assurance and to understand the client. And plus, if you supply us with a voicemail and email template, we can really keep that lead hot and keep it going for you and work it as a team. Now, these skills can be learned. A lot of people do come in with certain personalities, but they don't have the discipline and the structure. You really need to follow certain scripts, and there has to be active listening and engagement. And my favorite thing, Lily, is a positive escalation. If I can get it past the pitch and get through the secretary and get through to you, Lily, before I even introduce myself, I will compliment that individual that assisted me. I'll do it verbally and I'll also do it in writing. So when I do happen to call your company back and your assistant answers the phone, they're going to thank me. They're going to say they've been with you for 10 years, and I'm probably the first person to ever compliment them. And so these are the sort of good faith action steps that you can do prior to any sort of contract. So even though my price not may be as competitive as India or the Philippines, and I might not be as large as Amazon, I can give you that sort of first-class service that some people need in order to really use that budget and really grow their projects and scale accordingly. But I tell you what, it's to offset the time that people just do not have. An insurance agent, real estate, guys that work in travel or transportation, any sort of industry, any sort of medium, as long as it's not gray area and illegal, we're more than willing to listen. And if there is that sort of agreement, so we can supply each other with the resources we need to be successful, that's fine. But don't expect me to squeeze a month's worth of work out of 100 leads. And if you're not picking up the phone and if you're not following through on the appointments. And so there really needs to be, and especially on my end, because this is my wheelhouse, I reverse qualify. I will ask you 1,000 questions to make sure it's not because of me or you, Lily, but the 50 people we have to hire, if you're not prepared, they're just going to quit, or they're going to think that you're a joke, or they're going to test you for a couple of days in training and nesting, and then leave and want to get paid for it because we wasted their time. And so the market speaks. As long as we can offer something with leverage and a competitive angle, there's no reason why you can't build a team. But we do send out pre-launch checklists. We explain quality control. The CTO of my company sends out specific tech specs so I can set your computers up. I can have the CRM going. So, I mean, there is at least some preparation prior to. So at least when the agents come in, we're turnkey ready.
Sounds great. What's the typical closing rate for, I guess it depends on the industry and depends on the product and depends on how expensive it is. But what is the typical closing rate for a high ticket closer that you may have in your team?
How about some other metrics first, my friend? Why don't we look at the call to contact ratios first? I'll take your closing. We'll get there in a minute. I want to know how many calls I'm making, 100 calls. How many times do I get to speak to Lily? And then let me look at the average talk time. Is there wrap-up time? Is there any sort of selling for time or commitment prior to the contract? And so there are, we call them dispositions in order to gauge the temperature of the call and the sort of work that needs to be done. But I tell you what, if it's something as simple as a movies and music campaign that I have, for an example, the people that are calling into us are already existing clients. Now, my metric that I'd be looking at are the upsells. Of course, they're calling in for the Elvis Presley album, but let me see if I can sell them John Wayne movies, or sell them some sort of package. Or what we do is if we're prospecting, like for transportation companies, for an example, we're seeing how much shipping somebody is doing for a month. Your closing percentage really depends on the quality of the lead that I turn in with you. Now, some people can be facetious. I've seen it with real estate, where they overvalue their homes, or when you show up, they try to, get you for different points. But, if you can get a clear quality lead, then once again, it makes it easier for the individual closing. And the ones that have that skill that you see in Hollywood, those are the ones that force hands and twist arms. If there is a natural relationship where both people leave things on the table, you don't have to push. In fact, the individuals that you're saying are lead gens, they can take the ball in the end zone, because as long as they have checkpoints as long as they're engaged, as long as they're prepared and have their answers, it's okay. A B player can close for you, or if it just gets to a certain point, then have the closer jump on the call and shadow or work with you. And these are the sort of things, Lily, that if you're going to be building a team, you just do it in certain stages and you see who can learn quicker, who has the potential. But if you're willing to invest in a process and work with telemarketing, there's no reason why you can't slowly build this team. But listen, I've had people close 2 deals in a month, but it's more than enough. And then these other people have to hustle 5 a day. So it's depending if you're striking in the gold or you're panning for it. But at the end of the day, you got to get that ounce. It just depends on how it's done.
Thank you. And how long does it take to train a team in order to sell super high ticket products like 25K and higher?
It really all depends on the script. If you're giving me extremely technical words, might take us a while to learn how to pronounce it correctly, or if I got to write my scripts phonetically. So at least I say things correctly. Like in real estate, for an example, you can't say escrow, it's escrow, come on. And so there are certain things you have to switch. But I tell you what, if somebody has been in this industry for 10 or 15 years, they might have bad habits. That might be a cancer, that might be tainted or jaded. But if you bring an individual that's bilingual, which to me bears the mark of higher education, you can mold them. You can really adjust them accordingly and grow them quick. Because once again, they don't have bad habits and you're their mentor. It's a squire to a knight. But to answer your question, a lead gen person, you could have somebody up and running within a day. You can have them testing calls in a half a day. I always believe that if anything and nothing, give the agents at least 4 hours of soft skills training. Maybe let them do some research of the company, meet the owners of the company, get to hear a few recordings. I mean, just don't expect them to just jump right on the phone. They can, but no, let them ease into it a little bit and hear some examples. And so I always believe that if you give somebody a recording, okay, and take out anything sensitive, that to me has been the fastest ramp up, in my opinion, compared to having somebody repeat it, okay, because they can pause it, they can listen to it at their convenience. They can even do the most intelligent thing, Lily. They can pause it and look up certain vocabulary words that they don't understand because it's a second language. Once they understand it, then they go to the thesaurus and learn similes on it to expand their vocabulary and sound more diplomatic and strategic. This is just not what you see in Hollywood. To get somebody for a high ticket item, 25 grand, 100 grand, $500,000, $1 million. I tell you what, you want to know something interesting? When you're going for the $100 deal, those aren't fun. But when you speak to a gentleman or a lady that deals with $500,000, $1 million plus deals, they're the easier ones because they are so open-minded to listen to every idea because they're a certain player at that level. It's the ones that have been burnt before and realize how hard it is to make $5. I mean, can't be penny wise and pound foolish. And so it like if you saw that movie, The Pursuit of Happiness, where he switched the list upside down and called the big shot. The big shot was going off to a baseball game and says, "Hey, buddy, come on down and see me." I tell you what, as a CEO of a company, if someone calls me sir and doesn't research my company and really is just reading a script, I'll let you do it because I have empathy towards you. But it's really not a good pitch. But if someone starts talking about my pinball machines being from Philadelphia, running this cool Art Deco looking call center, you just bought yourself 5 minutes, Lily. It's yours to lose. And I think all you need to do is just buy a little 30 seconds to 5 minutes worth of time to continue your checkpoints and your pass to pitch. It could be done for $1 or for $1 million. Either way, it's the same play.
Wow, so interesting. And what about, like, for example, I run a lot of events, and I tried before to use the power of some telemarketers, and it hasn't really been that successful. I haven't somehow been able to transmit what I know to them. And so they haven't closed anything. So I finally had to make all the calls myself. But what would you recommend in terms of being able to successfully transmit what you know to the telemarketers? Is it that you have to create a script and then to get them to listen to some conversations that are recorded, and then to give them a list of objections and how to handle those objections, and to even think ahead of some objections that perhaps were not even mentioned by any of the entrepreneurs you were speaking with, and then to kind of give those as well and hope for the best? Or do you recommend something else?
Any gambler knows percentages. Of course, you hope for the best, but you have to play the right play. I believe in right bus, right seat. I'm not going to put somebody in there if they have the courage to do it. That's fine, but they might not produce. It's not the right place for them to be. And what a shame, because if they had 10 Lilies making phone calls, I guarantee the percentages would be different. I also believe in listening to the phone calls and doing quality control. Listen to their rate of speech, how loud they're speaking. Are they pausing? Are they asking transitional sentences? Are they using tie-down questions? If things make sense or sounds good. You know, they're just more engaged. They use the military alphabet with individuals. Do they give options and wait for positive or negative reinforcements in order to, instead of going horizontal, vertical, and asking open-ended questions? It's just knowing the dance, Lily, and maybe prolonging a conversation a couple more minutes, or separating yourself from just a typical telemarketer. I wasn't there in your room and hearing that people make calls and you're the nicest person, but I guarantee if I had listened to them, I'd probably be grading them at a C+, 75 to an 80%, because they'd probably be lacking on certain soft skills. Let me give you a couple examples. Simple examples that can readjust a tone, because these are the $1 million ideas. The simplest things are the easiest things. You need to change certain vocabulary because it can evoke an ego defense. I will never use the word help on the phone. I've changed it with assist, guide, and my favorite, lend a hand, because it's an image streaming word. You get the double score. I never say, excuse me, Lily. I say, hey, Lily, for my clarification. Was it ABC or 1, 2, 3? Because we fall on certain swords. In chess, you have to sacrifice pieces. And I know your dog is barking, your cell phone's terrible, and I can't hear you, but I'm not going to say, excuse me, it's my clarification. And then when you're locking in appointments, you ask them at their convenience. And then if you really want to hedge it, let them know it's tentative. It's pencil, not pen. I still locked you in, but I can erase it and reset it if you have to, if something comes up. I don't want to force your fit. I like giving wiggles. You know, life is made of zig and zag. And so as long as you're not so stiff and you give people not options for out, but a wiggle option like a tentative compared to concrete, and convenience compared to best. These are the sort of things that add up. And once again, how about this? Military alphabet. Why? So Lily, your email doesn't bounce back. And don't assume I can pronounce your name properly. You always ask, in order for me to pronounce it properly, how do you pronounce your beautiful exotic name? And I tell you what, anchoring. Military alphabet is just one example. 30% of the people have served or know somebody that has served. So instead of ending the call, you and I are talking, it's like an encore, talking for another 5 minutes about you serving in the military, me thanking you and calling you a hero. And you wonder why I get this business. Well, when you compare me to others, I'm consistent, I'm sincere, I came prepared. And instead of just talking about my rates and telemarketing and stuff like that, we're going to talk about 4 or 5 fun things on the side, because no one else is prepared for that. And it's going to ease you up a little bit. And it's going to allow me to be able to properly give a delivery compared to you being distracted, comparing me to others, feeling rushed, right? Or just putting my information in a pile. We call these romantic deaths because if you're going to get hung up on, I want to have a beautiful 30 seconds or a minute before that individual, hangs up the phone. But we've reduced the we're good, thanks. Is this a salesman? What are you selling? We're good. No. We use a company name spike in the beginning, Lily. We're going to say, hey, how's the Waiting Titans podcast doing today? And they're going to say, we're doing great. It's like you're using your anonymity, not the whole call, just in the beginning. Why? So I can go, hello, compared to who's this? Come on, you just got the positive reinforcement. They're not asking what you're selling. They want to know who you are. And then I use a buffer boomerang technique. Yeah, buffer boomerang. I'm going to say, Lily, that's an excellent question. My name is Richard Blank. You do the name drop to filter it. You let you know it's a great question. I repeat the question so you don't have to repeat it anymore. And then I send it back happy. And I do it all day long. What's the name of your company? What are you offering? Where are you located? I knew you were going to ask that, Lily. My company's located in Costa Rica. Come on, it's easy to do. And then you get to pass the pitch, you do the positive escalation, and you get transferred. So if anything and nothing, in the beginning of a call, I do a company name spike, 2 buffer boomerangs, and a name drop. And if you still hang up on me, hey, at least por lo menos, at least I got something out of the call. I sounded great. Yeah. And then I move on to the next one. And so telemarketing is done on rhythm. Can't beat yourself up. You know the game. Have a strong chin. But I tell you what, there are ways to jump clouds. And there are ways to feel good about yourself regardless of the outcome. And if you combine all that into one big package, Lily, I think your audience will be exceptionally successful over the phone.
Thank you. Now, one thing I've experienced sometimes is when I speak to entrepreneurs, and of course the packages are very expensive, from 25K upwards. And sometimes they say, oh, let me speak to my wife, or let me think about it, or send me the proposal and I'll, pay it straight away. And sometimes there's, ghosting that happens after that. Sure. So I'm wondering, how do you make sure that, especially when you have these super high packages where people tend to have to consult with their wife, or it could be also a very good excuse. How do you make sure that they actually sign on the call and pay immediately, as opposed to thinking about it, and as opposed to consulting with their wife or consulting with their dog? Or
Of course. I expect that on some. So you say, I have to speak to my wife. Of course you have to speak to your wife. I'm not going to take that personal. But then I have been taught this. Okay, Lily, so you would like for me to send you some information, and I will do that. But once you see that my company and I are legit, I want that commitment from you for a follow-up phone call, for an appointment, for the contract, for your wife to be there for an answer. You're not going to ghost me on that. You want the email? Fine. I want to at least have a commitment from you after reading it to move forward to that next step. You can still do first downs before a touchdown. I'm not going to force you to sign that day. Even myself would like to read about you first and think about it over the evening. And there's nothing wrong with pondering. A lot of the deals are made if you put it out there, but not pressure, but then sell for time. When I will call you back. Some people may ghost you. Well, then you know what? I tell you what, if you really want to look at the real play, somebody should be forthright with you in the beginning. It's great that you want to look at it. I want to research you. I'm interested. But if you say, well, when would be the most convenient time? Thursday, 2 p.m. No problem. I at least want to know then where we stand. And if you have any questions before that, let me know. And so you got your hot, your medium, and your cold, which is the 3 to 6 month touch. But then again, it's either fear or ego, or they've been hurt before. And, you can talk about some of these broken hearts. And I tell you what, unless you really do take certain risks in life, you'll never know what it's like to be on the big stage. And so, like when you watch the stock movies like Boiler Room or Glengarry Glen Ross, or that was real estate, but Boiler Room and things like that, and Wolf of Wall Street, what they do is a sense of urgency. And it depends really, if your product has a sense of urgency attached to it, fine. But if it's the kind of thing that will always be there, like a nice jacuzzi or a Porsche, this guy can take his time. But if you only have so many seats, like your seminar, or once again, who knows where you're going to be in business from now, you might miss the boat. You can put that out there a little bit and give certain examples of back in the day, when you decided to stay home and not go to the dance, or you didn't train hard enough and you didn't play well in athletics, or you didn't take advantage of certain things scholastically and you didn't get the sort of results that you're looking for. And so, maybe not everybody has a $25,000 experience and decision that they have to make, but you can talk about the things that they did in certain stages of life prior to that. You could even call them out. Go, listen, Lily, you run a company right now. You got 35 people working there. What was it like when you signed that first lease? Or you had to get those first, 20 computers? Or when you built that sign, that neon sign that's outside of your building. Come on, man, those things are at least 10 grand. and you're complaining about, look what you just did. And you know that you got business from it because people drove by on the highway and complimented it. And so maybe if you can scale them, you can discuss with them. It's almost like putting more plates on the side of the bar. And you can let them know that they can carry a little more weight. You've already shown me you could do it. How about this, Lily? 4 of the projects you did were already 7 grand. So that's 24 right there. Oh, come on. You already did 4 things that cost 7 grand. You can even go through their inventory and let them know that they've already spent that and you've already made money back on that. I'm just not splitting it up. I'm giving you the chunk. And so those are the sort of things, instead of pushing one way, you can talk about another way. Even for me, if somebody says, Richard, you got 150 people, do you have to buy 150 computers? Yeah. And some people needed double monitors. And don't kid yourself, I'm not talking about the uncomfortable chairs, the nice back and the armrests. That costs money too. Air conditioning units, had to drop money on that. Come on. There's 1,000 things we can talk about that cost me 10 grand or 20 grand. And you say, come on, Richie, look what you just did with the air conditioning. That was 15 grand. This extra 25 will give you this return here when you've had those air conditioning units for 7 years already. And so I look for things to talk about like a best friend would, like on the side slide. Put your thing aside for a minute and see if you can add 4, 5, or 6 things in their business that will be equivalent to their thing, and then combine it to how many years they've been in business. They already got the return on it, and we're good to go. You're almost playing with the house's money.
Oh, wow. Now, you are very proud to have the largest collection of restored American pinball machines and antique Rockola jukeboxes in Central America, making gamification a strong part of CCC culture. Okay, yeah, so my question is, how did, having this collection of American pinball machines help you to create perhaps a culture of happiness and contentment, and helped you perhaps towards creating this large business?
Yes, Lily. My favorite topic. I tell you what, recess was the best class back in the day because you could play, you could make friends, you could let off steam, you could recharge your batteries. It's a happy medium. And, most companies have a couple games or pool table, ping pong or something. I wanted a game that they couldn't get at home. So I got 11 pinball machines, an air hockey table, got a couple fighting machines, Pac-Man. And it's nice for me. It really allows the people to, it's almost like a runner running in place at a stoplight. If they get off the phone after 2 hours to go downstairs to have a cigarette or sit on their phone, they're going to ice a kicker, they're going to cool. But if they're on those machines, they're still working their hand-eye coordination, their mind and their body. So they're super fresh when they're going upstairs again. They're not cold, they're feeling good. And they're making friends. They can hang out with me, and they can have a certain other side that's competitive. So if they win a game, they can really go upstairs and have a strong second half. And I tell you what, I got the room for it, discretionary income. I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and these machines were non-attainable. It was only for, arcades and rich people. And so for me, one man's trash is another man's treasure. Once these arcades started going out of business, got a couple buddies of mine in a truck, and we'd drive a couple hours to some guy's bodega and pick up a couple machines for pennies on the dollar, fix them up, restore them, and I'm living a child's dream. But it was beautiful for me. I got the space. It makes it unique. Gamification is excellent in any sort of company culture, because instead of forcing you to go out and have drinks or to do other activities that people don't want to do, this is something they choose to do. And when people play together, they really have that sort of bond. You see a different side of somebody when they laugh and they compete.
Thank you. And have you awakened to the titanic power that you have? And did that help you to build this massive business? Or what was a catalyst for you to build this business?
There was only one way. I needed to delegate. I'm a guest in this country. And let's be realistic. I do not have a degree in Cisco and servers and programming. I needed a CTO. I don't know the labor laws. I needed an attorney. And mathematics to me is a chore. So I needed an accountant, human resources director, supervisor, security, you name it. I'm the trunk of the tree, Lily. I needed branches and roots in order for me to survive down here. And so it's about letting go and having faith in others. Have I been disappointed? Yes. There are some people that have not been the right fit and have not done very good things. But on the flip side, I've worked with people for over a decade. And that sort of fidelity to me was enough reinforcement for me to keep on going. The market speaks. They could quit today and be hired by Amazon tomorrow. Why would they continue to be here and to walk with me and to work with me? Well, maybe I did something right, the way that we were raised by our parents and our grandparents, to really show sincerity and empathy, give people second chances, maybe by calling the balls and the strikes, Lily, and giving them a little bit of guilt and trying to balance their bike and praise them when necessary. And so these are the only things that I really knew, and the friends that I made that have lasted. And I know today is a little bit different. The kids are on their phone and influencers, and I think it's wonderful. But there was nothing better than just hanging out with your buddies, lying on some grass, looking at the stars and talking about life. And those are your best friends because they saw you at your greatest and worst moments, especially when you were vulnerable, made you powerful. And that's why you have these best friends. Now, I'm not a weak man, but I'm a real man. And sometimes I take things personal because if you're going to start strong with me, you should end strong as well. There's a huge attrition rate in this industry. But Lily, my attrition is natural. I'm going to lose somebody because it's closer to their home. It's a better schedule for their school, or their girlfriend works there. But they'll never get the walk of shame. Lily, I'm not going to make you cry. And my ego is fine. I don't need to yell at you or threaten you, because you could always quit. I'll bend you. I won't break you. But I need to get you better. I have to get you stronger, more self-reliant, and more self-confident. And if I'm able to pay it forward in some sort of way to make you that much more stable and determined, that's how I believe leaders are made. Because as I'm going to say it before, the market speaks. If no one's standing behind you, you have no support. And it's very humbling. And so if you can control your emotions and your impulse control, maybe become a little more mature when it comes to financial responsibility and ethics and things like that, then you are the right person to be put into that position with such responsibility and pressure that you can handle it. And if you can, then the riches are yours. You have a very nice life and buy stuff. But, gold and jewels lose its luster. I mean, there's only so many dinners you can eat. But if you're in a position of leverage and of authority or some sort of influence, do the right thing. Use that fire for warmth and light. Don't use it to burn people, because it's a very special power and it should be used correctly.
Thank you so much, Richard. You have shared so much rich information, and you have definitely left a lot of blanks that need to be filled with a lot more information. That's the reason why people should reach out to you to discover more about how to grow a multi-million-dollar business with telemarketing.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential business titans, providing you with the insights to awaken to your full potential, so you can get paid to be yourself, find true happiness, and manifest anything you desire.